I'm gonna turn these simple app covers realistic in Photoshop. Starting with the easiest on the list, the Contacts app. First, I added a folder texture and then I made the color match the original cover. Next, I added a bunch of squares on the side and made them the correct colors. I also added some shadows like the original and then a paper texture on these little squares. And then finally, I cut out the contact symbol and then put it on the top with a linear burn. So this is the realistic Contacts app. That's pretty cool, but I actually just figured out that the MacBook actually does have some realistic app covers, and one of those includes the Contacts app. But it kind of goes outside of the ratio. I feel like you can't do that. That feels like cheating, so mine wins. But next, let's work on an app that isn't realistic, and that's the Photos app. Because honestly, this cover does not make me think of photos. And if you remember back in the day, the cover used to be a flower, and that's probably why it's still a flower, but I have a better idea. I think you should be able to see your most recent photos or videos straight from the cover of the app. So first I added a wood background as like a table and then added some shadows on the left and highlights on the right. Next I made a rectangle and turned it into a Polaroid picture type of thing and then added a recent photo from my camera roll in there and also added a paper texture. Then I basically just did that 2 more times but with different pictures, and after that I moved the pictures so you could kind of see each of them a little bit and then put those layers below the shadows and highlights layers so that it has the same lighting as the wood. Finally I added some shadows coming off of the pictures. So this is my realistic photos cover, and my idea is that every time you take a new photo, it will show up on here. But now let's move on to something a little bit more hard, which is the health app. And honestly, I don't think I've ever opened this app in my entire life. But the reason I say this one's a little harder is because there's literally nothing on the cover. It's basically empty. I feel like they didn't even try with this one. The first thing I thought of was like a hospital monitor that shows your vitals. So I made a rounded rectangle at the top and added a metal texture to the outside. I also added a monitor screen type of thing on the inside and then added a white wall on the background. I added a shadow behind the monitor thing and made the inside more blue. Next, I added an ECG strip, which I just now learned that's what it's called, and made it glow red. After that, I added a heart like the original cover, but put it by the monitor thing and added a bevel and emboss, which I also did to the outside of the monitor. I felt this was kind of empty, which is the reason we changed the cover originally, so I added an IV bag on the bottom left and then added a shadow. I had an idea to add a first aid kit, so I found this one and put it on the wall as well as adding some shadows, but it's kind of just floating there, so I also cut out and added a little hook to be holding it up. So this is my realistic version of the health app. Hey, and before we move on to the next one, if you're enjoying, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and let's get this video to like 1 billion likes. I don't know. Now, the next app I'm gonna turn realistic is the Find My app. And it's basically just a radar, which was actually the cover for the Find iPhone app, which was combined with the Find iFriends app to make this app. So let's do this radar justice. So I first copied the small circles in the middle, but made it look like it's glowing. And then I copied the next circle below that, but made it a little darker, but kind of still bright in a way. I also copied the final circle and added a green gradient. Next, I made a triangle and flipped it to replicate the original and added some green at the top. And then I changed the blending mode to color. After that, I added a bunch of circles around the whole thing and changed the blending mode to overlay. I also added a small circle and then made it look like a dot on the radar and then placed a few more around the radar. Finally, I added an RGB screen image and made it show in the middle and on the blue part of the radar, and then put it on the outside of the radar to emphasize that this is a screen. I made some small tweaks after this, but nothing significant, so this is the final cover for the Find My app. Now let's work on the final cover, which is going to be the hardest, but I think it's going to be the coolest. This is going to be the Maps cover. This cover has been changed a lot over the years, but I honestly like what it's at right now. And according to Wikipedia, it was first released in 2012. So I don't really know where this cover came from, but apparently this app sucked when it first released because of incorrect directions, sparse data about public transportation, and a lot of other bugs and errors. But I'm going to make it better by making the cover better, which won't actually fix any of the bugs, but you know, it'll look cool. So the first thing I did was make a bunch of shapes replicating the roads and grass from the original cover. After that, I added an outline on the roads like the original, but then changed the pink part to blue because I don't really know what the pink is supposed to mean on the map. So I downloaded a picture of grass and put it where the green was, and then I put a road texture where the road was, and then changed the blending mode. Next, I added some water where the blue was and some dirt where the yellow was, and after that, I made a little road on the top right like the original, and then made it a little darker. And then I put a drop shadow and bevel and emboss on the roads, and then added some shadows and brightness onto the image, coming from the right side. Next, I downloaded a picture of a car and cut it out, but when I put it on the road, I decided I should probably add some yellow markers on it, which was pretty easy. So after I did that, I added the car back and then put a drop shadow that goes with the lighting, and then made the lights in the back more bright, and also made it so the headlights were on by making a triangle and erasing some parts. And finally, in the original cover, the location thing is in a blue circle, so I changed the color of the car to blue and also added that blue line in front of it, but I honestly didn't like the way that this looked, so I just removed it and then made the car red because I think it stands out more. It just kind of makes it pop. So this is my realistic version of the Maps app. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments, and let me know what your favorite design was. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.